What if you were yourself? What if you were just you? Take away all the polish, take away all the veneer, take away all the manufactured things that you want people to know about you, to see about you, all the things that are like hidden inside of your heart that you're yearning for from other people, from outside sources, validation, acceptance, approval, admiration, whatever those things are. What if you were just you? This is a real question that I wanted to talk about, and specifically in the context for those of you that create content or that aspire to create content. I think this is going to be a pivotal question that is going to really depend on the success that you have in this space. See, I think just from kind of an outside looking in, I think that we're overwhelmed, we're over consumed or over consuming things that are mass produced, that are processed, that are designed specifically to catch our attention, to pull us down kind of a rabbit hole of engagement or attention or whatever it is. I think that if you just look around, that's the kind of world that we're living in. And I know for myself, I have a bit of a problem with that as it relates to me being who it is that I want to be on camera. Now, first, let's just get that out of the way. Being a personality or someone that communicates on camera is incredibly difficult. It's a really hard thing to do. Like you're not staring at anybody, you're having a conversation, you're almost imagining what the other person on the other end would say to you and you're kind of responding back to that. Let me tell you where this all started for me. This thought actually occurred to me just minutes ago. I had very little time to think about it, but I knew that it was a pivotal question. So, in true fashion of just me being me, I'm going to tell you where I came from. I came from a counseling session that I had with a counselor. I'm currently in counseling right now. And depending on your outlook, you may see that as positive, you may see that as negative. You might see that as shocking, or you might see that as good job, man. Everybody needs counseling. But for me, I kind of come from a background where I kind of got mixed feelings about it, like especially in counseling. There's things that are brought up or talked about that are foreign or that are like, man, I don't know exactly what to do with that. And that's a little bit scary, right? It's a little bit shameful sometimes when you're given a direction or you're asked a question and you're just like, man, I don't really know. Like, great question. Like, I don't know. Or why do you feel this way? I don't know. Or maybe you do know. In some cases, I did know why I was feeling a certain way, but I didn't know what to do with it. And you know what's interesting is a lot of times, and I've been on both sides of the counseling seat, a lot of times you're going to notice that it's an identity issue. Whatever it is that you're encountering or you're going through, you're struggling with, it's 9 times out of 10 having to do with some portion of your identity. And that's exactly what it was for me. And here I am on the other side of this counseling session. And I'm thinking about all the things that I want to do and all the things I want to be and all the ways I want to show up in the world. And I'm looking at myself going like, why am I not? And once again, it all pointed back to an identity issue. The reality of it is that there are some instances where I am just not comfortable being myself. I'm not comfortable with who I am. And so I began to just kind of think about this a little bit. Like, what value do you bring to the world? What problems do you want people solve? Like, all these are big, grandiose type of questions, especially in the marketing and content creator space. We hear these like, what problem, what process do you, bring to the table? What results get people to replicate in their lives? All of these big, grandiose questions. But I think that the people that are maybe having the most success or having the most success with themselves, because I feel like that's a difference, right? We see in a lot of people that have success, quote unquote, on the outside, but internally they're diminishing, they're deteriorating, they're losing sleep, they're losing health, they're unhappy, they're unfulfilled. And so knowing that and seeing that, I've always kind of had like a watchful eye towards that. Like, man, I don't want to become this at the extent of that. But how do you do it? Because if you look at yourself, for most of us, right? Unless you're just incredibly in tune with yourself, which if you are, man, hats off to you. But for a lot of us, we feel like there's something missing. We feel like we're not all that we want to be, and so therefore, there's this kind of cognitive dissonance that happens where we're not quite where we want to be, but where we need to be is what's going to help get us there. It's kind of this loop. And it all boils back to an identity issue of not being who you were created to be. Man, I can't tell you how much of a struggle this has been for me. And I'm just really just being myself in this moment. Like those of you that know me, that have had conversations with me, you know, like this is me just being me. You know, one of the biggest areas of disconnect for me is just this idea of not being where I want to be or not being able to bring what I want to bring to the table. Man, I desire to bring breakthrough for people. Not just breakthrough in your business, which I love, I enjoy, but breakthrough in your spiritual life, breakthrough over overcoming emotional setbacks, breakthrough in identity issues. These very things have literally plagued my life, from depression, anxiety, substance abuse, all different types of things that have really just grappled me and caused struggle, but at the same time have caused triumph because the Lord has shown up in my life throughout all these seasons, and He's given me access. He's provided healing. He's given me identity. He's given me wisdom and clarity and all these sorts of things. You know, so when I take kind of a step back and I look at myself and man, this is what I want to bring to the table, right? This is what I aspire to be. This is all the things. Like, then there's a conflicting side. There's that other voice, that voice of insecurity, that voice of self-doubt that goes like, man, nobody wants to hear that. They just want to know how to grow their business. They just want to know how to get more leads. They just want to know how to create better content. Like, just come to the table and show them all the gear that you're using, because surely that's what people want to know. And you know what? That's what the data shows. The data shows that people are just wanting a quick win at life, a quick hack towards success and happiness. But let me just tell you the truth, man. There is none. There is none. And if there was one, it wouldn't be good for you. Let me explain. You know, this comes back to a principle that I'm really, one, first, that God has shown me, and two, is one that I'm building a framework on, because I believe that this is a transformational principle that is hidden within the first pages of Scripture that can show us a direction towards living a not only just a happy, but a joyous and a authoritative, a fulfilled life where you're not subject to feelings or emotions or circumstances or people or opinions or anything. But what you are is you're operating and functioning in the nature that you were created to function in. And you're allowing God, the author, the director of your life, to steer you and to navigate you, and not to get you to a destination. Because I think that's a lot of what we want, right? Just, how do I get there? How do I get there? Once I get there, I'm fine. I'm good. But see, that's missing the whole point, I believe, of what this life is intended to be about. And that if we have the mentality, I think that mentality is actually a trick. It's a snare to get us to think in terms of just arriving at a destination. And if we just arrive at a destination, then that's all we need. That's all we need God for. That's all we need this thing for. That's all we need. And we'll be fine. And we won't need anyone or anything. I think that's a trick. That's bait. That's a temptation that is going to lead you down a path that is completely unfulfilling, unrewarding, is stunting your growth, your experience, and is robbing you ultimately of a life that God has for you. So let me explain this. It's wrapped up in one word, and it's a word that we have a hard time understanding, and that word is cultivate. See, way back in Genesis, in the beginning parts of the Bible, God gave man a command. He placed him in a garden, and he told him to cultivate and keep that garden. And I think that within these two words, but specifically the one cultivate, is a principle that is designed, that actually was designed for us. In other words, we're made to function in this principle to cultivate. There's a heavenly assignment on your life to cultivate the garden that God has placed you in. Whatever that garden may be. Some people want to do politics. Some want to do content creation like myself. Some people want to do coaching. Some people want to be a counselor, a doctor, a lawyer, whatever it is, a mother. Whatever the garden that God has placed you in, there's a principle at work to cultivate and to keep that assignment. That is to increase, to grow, to cultivate, to expand, to serve, and then to keep, to watch, to guard, to maintain. It's this idea of stewardship in our lives. And so part of that stewardship, I believe, at least for myself, and I'm just, once again, I'm coming to this video just being me. I don't know where you're at, and I don't know where, what areas you're struggling in or any of those kind of things, but I know for myself, one of the areas that I have not been cultivating is the person that God created me to be. Man, I feel that something heavy. I feel that really heavy. That there's a person that God created you to be, but specifically, I'm just talking to myself right now. That there is a specific person, an assignment, a responsibility given for you to cultivate that person, for you to increase and grow that person into the man that God created you to be. And from there, extending outward, everything else will be connected. Everything else will flourish. Everything else will prosper. Because that's who you were created to be. It doesn't mean perfect. It doesn't mean all polished. It doesn't mean you don't make mistakes. You don't have vulnerabilities, but it does mean this. You know who you are. You know who you are. You know why you were created. The Bible says that without vision, the people cast off restraint. They perish, they die. They succumb to all of the things around them that are trying to hook them and snare them and grab them and pull them down. That's what you expose yourself to when you don't have vision, when you don't know who you are, when you're living a life that is wandering. I talked about this a lot. This is another principle. I think that a majority of us are stuck, including myself, in some of these areas. We're stuck in wandering, which is a spiritual condition way more than it is a physical condition. And we could see this in the first couple of chapters of Genesis as well, actually chapter 4 with Cain and Abel. So here's the thing, right? Here's let me just kind of wrap a bow on this, give you something to take away and not just my own personal counseling session. We see a lot of ideas and a lot of strategy in this world about what you should do and what content gets engagement and what this and what that and how to show up online and how to, best deliver content and all that stuff. And I'm all for that. I love that. I got some great buddies of mine, some friends that are doing some amazing things that I ask them for advice all the time. I have some people that I help and I coach and I direct, and I love messaging, all of that stuff. But I think that for a large majority of us, especially those that know their assignment in this world, that know who they're connected to, that understand that they have an assignment, but just like it's bigger than themselves. They understand that their garden is not just about themselves, that they were put here for a reason to serve people. They know who those people are. For those people, I think that the greatest takeaway is to be yourself. Now, I think that it's not just a great takeaway. I actually think it's a great strategy too. And this is part of what motivated this video is, if we could begin to be comfortable with who we are and share our experiences, we know for a fact, I know this for a fact, it's it's science basically, like you are going to attract and connect with more people. People do not connect with you because of all of what you are. People connect with you because how similar they can see themselves in you. In other words, how much you are just them, how many struggles you've had to overcome. There's been somewhere I've had something in this video, if you've watched it, where you're like, oh man, I identify with that. I relate with that. Maybe this is your first time seeing me and you're like, yo, I didn't even know this guy, but yo, I like what he said there. I relate to that because that's how human nature works. We relate to vulnerability. We relate to struggles. Sure, it's cool to see like somebody prospering and There's what they call an aspirational identity, somebody that you want to aspire, you want to have what they have. And that's all great. And those things are motivators too. But nothing is more powerful than the ability to relate to someone in their vulnerability, in their struggles. That's what really causes someone. This is why one of the most common and popular story formats is the hero's journey. Because there's a point in the hero's journey where he's not a hero. And we all read that aspect. He's the underdog. We're rooting for him to win. We want to see him win. It doesn't look like he's going to win. And in each and every one of us, there is that same person, the hero that hasn't become a hero. And so if you as a communicator, a teacher, educator, influencer, whatever you want to call it, if you can just be who you are, how much more can you connect to that person? How much more can you build a tribe around you that relates to those areas of your life? Man, that is the hack. That's the super trick. That's the thing that nobody else is doing, or very few people are doing, that is actually going to get you the most results. I think there's a big distraction on numbers and all this stuff. And, you talk to anybody who knows anything about influencer marketing and all this stuff, they will tell you that there is a lot of people that have very large audiences that are broke because they don't know how to monetize it. There's no depth. Sure, they get a lot of views, but there's not a lot of commitment. So if you could be a person, if I can be a person that goes all in on the experiences that I have, all in on what God has done and is doing in my life, and share that and show that with a community of people. Let me just tell you, I don't need much. You don't need much. You don't. You really don't. If you could just commit to serving a specific group of people, the people that God has created you to serve, if you could just focus on serving those people, that's all you need, man. That's all you need. I don't know what your monetary goals are or how much you're aspiring to make in this world, but I can tell you, if you did that effectively and you implemented some products or ways to be able to serve those people effectively, not just, come on, with integrity, right? You did something that was able to provide a real value to those people. I believe you'd have more wealth than you could even know what to do with. And I think that for a lot of us, we are looking to build a business. We are looking to do things monetarily. And one of the biggest setbacks that you're having in your life, one of the biggest areas, and I'm talking to myself right now, one of the biggest areas that you're struggling in is who you are, your identity. Oh, you like to do this, but you don't think that'll work. Oh, you're fascinated in this, but you don't want to share that interest. You need to niche down and do this and this. And no, I think that where it starts is you first need to be comfortable knowing who you are, knowing what brings you joy, what value you bring to the world, imperfections and all. Because once again, like I said, this is the things we edit out. I'm not editing this video at all. I'm not I'll chop the ends off. But other than that, I'm bringing it straight raw and real to you. This is really going on in my life right now. There are real things in my life that are happening, real pressures, like I told you, I'm in counseling. You know what I mean? Like, I'm seeking counseling. I'm seeking help in certain areas to be able to be a better person, to be a better father, a better husband, a better communicator, better boss, better minister, better leader, better all these things. But man, I can't tell you how much it hinges back on being who you were created to be. It goes back to the garden, man. It really does. God created you. He gave you an assignment. And he also too gave you a blueprint, a roadmap on how to steward and grow everything he gave you. And those two things are to cultivate and to keep. And I have a ton. Let me just tell you, I have a ton of videos that are coming on these two words. Actually, in the Hebrew, it's abad and shamar. If you want to look them up, mind blowing. So much stuff. But anyways, all that to say, what if you were just who you are? What if you were comfortable being who you are? You didn't have to go through all the extra work of all the extra polish, all the extra this, all the extra that. You were just you. And all the experiences and wisdom and knowledge and understanding that you've acquired throughout the years, you just showed up and delivered that for someone. Quit trying to be like the person. Quit trying to be like that person. Matter of fact, like I said, I think that the online world is actually ripe for you to be that person, for you to just show up, communicate with people, deliver something valuable, help them to think, help them to get breakthrough, help them to learn from what it is that you're learning from. I think that that's the most valuable thing you can do right now. I think right now that is the creative process that I'm going through.